Episode 31. The Lighthouse Affair. The Death of Zach. They called me down to the waterfront before the sun came up. The kind of morning where the fog feels thick enough to lean on, and the coffee in your hand's already gone cold before you take the lid off. The Walton Lighthouse, or what was left of it, scattered across the rocks like a kid had dropped it out of a toy box. I've seen storms do damage. I've seen vandals, but this wasn't either. This was different. The caller was a witness. Said his name was Dave. Said he saw the whole thing go down. And the look on his face told me this wasn't going to be one of those "it was dark, maybe it was a pelican" kind of statements. You the guy who called it in?
Yeah, but you're not gonna believe me.
I believe things for a living. Lay it on me. He told me it started just after midnight. The waves were rough, sure, but the sky was clear enough to see the horizon. That's when something broke the surface. Something big. Not seal big. Not even fishing boat big. We're talking 40 feet of wet nightmare, serpent-shaped with a human-like face the size of an oil barrel. Around here, they call it the Old Man of Monterey Bay. A name that makes it sound like you should be shuffling around in slippers telling you about the price of gas in 1953. But the reality is a lot wetter and a lot less friendly. Dave said the thing glided toward the lighthouse like it had business there, and standing at the base, as if he was supposed to be part of this, was Zach. Now, Zach's a familiar name around here. Delivers eggs to people for reasons no one's ever fully explained. Sometimes at normal hours, sometimes, apparently, at midnight. Why he was out on that tiny peninsula that makes up the harbor, I'll never know. Some folks say he might have been relieving himself. Others say maybe he was looking for his car keys. Or maybe he just woke up at home, blinked, and suddenly found himself next to a lighthouse with a carton of eggs under his arm. Life's funny like that. According to Dave, Zach didn't even see it coming. He was staring at the water, maybe waiting for a pelican, when the Old Man of Monterey Bay rose up behind him. The serpent didn't strike. Not at first. It pressed itself against the lighthouse, rocking it like it was slow dancing. Zach just stood there, carton in hand, looking like he was trying to figure out if he was interrupting something. And then the dance turned into a full-on embrace. Bricks started shaking loose. The beam spun faster. Zach took one step back, and that's when the base crumbled. Dave swears the creature let out a low, echoing moan before it slid back under the waves. And when the water settled, there was no Zach. No eggs. Just rubble. I've been on this beat a long time, and I've heard my share of fish tales, but this one had a ring of truth. Mostly because the lighthouse really was gone, and the Old Man of Monterey Bay's face still seemed to hang in the fog long after the thing had vanished. I filed the report, left out the part about the eggs. But something kept nagging at me. The old mariners used to talk about the call of the shore. Legends of deep-sea creatures that would surface once every 50 years, drawn to anything tall and bright, ships, towers, lighthouses, anything that looked like it could guide them home. Most people laughed it off, but I've been in this town long enough to know that if something sounds too ridiculous to be true, you should probably start taking notes. Later that afternoon, I went back to the site alone. The tide was out, gulls circling, pieces of the lighthouse still floating in the shallows. And there, carved deep into one of the remaining concrete blocks, was a pattern, circular grooves spiraling inward like something had left its mark. It wasn't vandalism. It wasn't weathering. It was deliberate. I made a rubbing of the design and took it back to my office. And here's where it gets strange. An old maritime journal in the archives had the same pattern, dated 1873, found carved into the hull of a shipwreck near Point Sur. The captain's notes claim they'd been followed for days by a great yearning thing from the depths before the vessel vanished in a sudden swell. Yearning. That's not a word you hear in most monster reports. That night I drove back to the harbor, sat in my car, sipping cold coffee, watching the black water. I half expected the thing to come back, searching for its partner, but it never did. Maybe it was nursing a broken heart. Maybe it had moved on to something other, beacon up the coast. Either way, the Walton Lighthouse and Zach were gone. And if the legends were right, we've got 50 years before its next romantic rendezvous. Plenty of time to rebuild and maybe put it somewhere less accessible. Until then, I'll be keeping an eye on the shoreline, because in Santa Cruz you never know what's coming out of the fog, or who it's going to take with it. And standing there in the dark, with the ocean as quiet as a kept secret, I thought about the way it must have looked, that enormous shape pressing close, wrapping itself around the light like it didn't want to let go. For a creature like that, maybe love and destruction were just two sides of the same wave. And maybe, just maybe, it was trying to say goodbye. Here's a poem for you, Romeo. It came for love, not fight or bite. It wrapped the tower in soft moonlight. It left alone by morning bright, and that's why I never date seafood. Until next time, this has been your detective, Billy Armi.
Thank you.